Hi, I'm Randy Wooden, and welcome to another in our Edge Library series, talking to job hunters and dealing with the topic of, okay, what are some good questions you should ask the employer? Now, there are going to be several of these segments that deal with good questions to ask, and not do we just want to look at a list of questions and say, okay, check, 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 check. Now, what I want to do is I want to get a little deeper with this and tell you not only what the questions are, but also when to ask them and why to ask them and what you hope to gain and how you can use that to your advantage in an interview. And let's face it, you have a finite amount of time to ask questions, so you've got to prioritize. Your job is to go in there and figure out, is this a job I can do and want to do? That's really what your job is. So let's look at this. Early on in the interview, I would argue very, very early on, they'll ask you a question. Tell me about yourself. We've talked about this in other workshops and also in other library series. We've talked about geese and how to go through that structure of the answer, but the last E in geese is an employer question. So what you want to do then is throw a question back at the company. Now, that question could take one of a couple of forms. The one I prefer is, could you tell me more about what you're looking for? The reason I like that is because it's somewhat vague. They could elect to talk about the company and the job content itself, or they could elect to talk more about the type of person they're looking for. I'd hope it's the latter. I really would like them to tell me a little bit about the qualities, the attributes, the characteristics of the person that would probably do well in this position. Could be a self-starter, highly motivated team player, can work well in a diverse work culture, highly organized, whatever. Those are qualities. I want to know what those are because now I know what my target is. During the interview now, I can go back and illustrate examples from my past to show how, again, I have those characteristics. Now, another question you could ask is, could you tell me more about the position? That one is a very common question. It's not bad to ask it. Just bear in mind that for most people, you've had a chance to read the job description, and so hopefully you've got a pretty good sense for what the job's all about. So why do you ask it? Well, here's why. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you been in an interview and you kind of sit there and scratch your head and say, did this guy even read my resume? Right? That's one thing. But also, even if they have your resume in front of them, they will still ask you to tell them what you did on the job, because they want to hear you articulate what you've done. Same rules apply to them. I might be reading a job description. It might be right in front of me, and I think I understand what they're looking for. But you know what? Until I hear it from them, it's not truth, let's say. I want to hear from them what they're looking for in their own words. Now I can weigh that against what I'm seeing on paper and really understand from their perspective what's important to them. And again, draw from my background and say, oh, well, I have this, I have that. It just helps to know what the target is. Now, granted, the employer will probably start to talk about those things anyway. What you're trying to do is to get off on a good start, a good foot, and ask a question that is not overly probing or a little bit too deep right now. You can save some of those more difficult questions for later in the interview. I just want to get things started on a good note, and for my money, that's the way to do it. It really is, and if you listen, you'll know what your target is that you'll need to hit as the interview goes along. And that'll wrap it up for this in our Edge Library series, tackling the kind of broad topic of what are some good questions to ask and why are they good? This is part one. We have many more parts to follow. I'm Randy Wooden. Thanks for watching.